Y'all know what it is.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to Eggs. Today's special guest is lawyer turned marketer and startup founder, Andy Cabasso. Andy is co-founder of an all-in-one link building and email outreach platform called Postaga. Postaga has been featured on Product Hunt, where they were the #1 product of the day and #2 for the week. However, in addition to Postaga, Andy has proven to be quite the prolific entrepreneur. After practicing law, he launched Juris Page, a digital agency who specialized in building websites for lawyers, who notoriously have horrible websites. After Juris Page was acquired in 2016, he went on to co-found Offsprout, which is touted as the most powerful white label website builder, and of course, Postaga. We have a lot of ground to cover, so let's dig in. Here to talk about building a business and preparing it for acquisition, building and scaling a remote team, how to create a business culture with a fully remote team, and so much more. Please join us in welcoming to the show, co-founder at Postaga, Andy Cabasso. Hey, Andy, how are you, man?
Doing good. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. Yeah, no, thrilled to death to have you, and we greatly appreciate you making the time to be here.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about yourself. In the intro, we found out that you were a lawyer at one point in your life, and then you switched into tech. You want to tell us, a little bit about where you went to school, why law, and then why did you leave?
Sure. So I guess I was studying business as an undergrad at Northeastern in Boston, and it was 2008, 2009. I was looking to graduate, and the whole world collapsed with the Great Recession, and I was like kind of rudderless, had no idea what to do, and like where to go next. And I had some mentors who I really valued their opinions, and they like said like you'd probably be a good fit for law. You have a mind for it. And I was like, well, yeah, sure, why not? And I went to law school at Fordham, and then kind of halfway through, I was realizing I don't think this is a good fit for me, in part because I think my mind was polluted by Tim Ferriss's 4-hour work week. One of the things that I still see as like a big struggle with like the legal space is that everything is very much by the billable hour, where you're rewarded not for productivity or efficiency, but how much time you can physically spend working on projects. And so if I was looking to automate things, or if I was better at like Excel or searching or anything like that, that wouldn't necessarily be rewarded. And there's no way I could run a business and remove myself from the process. It would entirely be dependent on the hours of labor that I'd be putting into it. And so I was looking to figure out what could, I don't think like this is for me, but what could I do? And I was noticing that of the like law firms that I was kind of applying to work at, they all had terrible websites. And a friend of mine who was my former roommate in college was doing freelancing at the time, and we kind of talked about it, and we started working together when we started Juris Page, doing websites and digital marketing for law firms. And we did a good enough job with our SEO that over time it picked up, and yeah, it became a real business. I was practicing law for like a little bit, like a year out, and then kind of transitioned away from that and was doing Juris Page full time. And then about 3 years later, we got acquired by a larger legal tech focused company that wanted to get into the web design and marketing space. And then stayed with them for a bit, and then started on Offsprout and Postaga from that experience.
Yeah, no, it's pretty amazing because you don't think of law as being like an obvious trajectory into the tech space. So, I mean, obviously, I guess you would learn how to be organized. You'd learn how to do research. You'd get a lot of skills out of a legal practice, maybe an analytical nature that works out really well in digital. But was there anything outside of maybe just the influence of your freelance buddy that added to your experience and technical skills? Like, I mean, did you pick up all this stuff as you went?
Well, there was definitely a lot that I picked up as I went. I guess so much of marketing is experimentation. You know, it's like reading what other people are doing, trying experiments for yourself, applying things. And I would definitely say like the first bit was a lot of figuring things out. There are so many blog posts that I wrote that got zero traffic and would never get any traffic, because why would an article about how legal marketing, what legal marketing can learn from the South Park underpants gnomes, teach us? I don't know. There's definitely a lot of trial and error and a lot of things I learned along the way, but there was like, I was a pretty good writer. I had to definitely unlearn a bit of the legal writing to, you know, write more conversationally for web copy. And but like one thing that helped with the agency was me having a legal background. I could speak to both audiences of our clients as well as their potential clients. So if you've seen, like, a lot of lawyer websites are very, like, they're written by the lawyer but not for the lawyer's audience. So like in New York, for example, a lot of people in divorce law or family law will call themselves matrimonial lawyers. That's a term that nobody who is not a practicing lawyer uses. So like stuff like making your content accessible to the audience was something that I had to like break down for a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, and so also just to sort of pile on that, I mean, like, you know, as a lawyer, you don't, or at least in my mind, I wouldn't think of a lawyer as being particularly entrepreneurial. But you mentioned having some mentors along the way and stuff like that. I wonder, were you always entrepreneurial, or was that something that sort of just came by virtue of, you know, following the breadcrumbs, so to speak?
Yeah, so I think I always had an entrepreneurial lean. Enough time has passed that I could share this. So like, I was one of the first kids on the block with a CD burner, and so I would sell ripped CDs to friends. But now that
you and Trevor Noah both, and me.
So yeah, stuff like that, like selling like screen printed t-shirts and stuff like that to classmates in school. That was definitely stuff I was doing, and I was like always like trying to think of business ideas and stuff like that. And it, like, actually going into law school and meeting lawyers and like understanding the practice, the industry itself is very, very risk averse because it has to be. And I think I just naturally had a higher tolerance and propensity for risk. So I was like, yeah, they're like, you know, you probably like seen like if you have like a contract for anything, like there are a million pages with every single possible alternative and outcome to prevent anything bad from happening. And I was just kind of like, it's fine. Maybe that's yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it seems like a bad characteristic for a lawyer, but it seems like a great characteristic for an entrepreneur.
Yeah. So did you get into law and realize it just wasn't your thing, and that's why you kind of pivoted and went down that other route, or do you still kind of practice on occasion?
I'm still licensed to practice, even though I haven't really took on much. I haven't really taken on, I can't think of like any legal work in the past few years. So yeah, I don't know if that gets me anything. Like I have like my bar card, and if I need to get into a courthouse, I can skip the line, but
that's not nothing.
That's
good deal.
Actually, it is nothing, because a few months back I was called for jury duty, and I had my lawyer card, and I wanted to see if I could pass the line, and they're like, "What are you here for?" I'm like, "A jury duty," and they're like, "Nah, not today. You can't use that card." And so it got me nothing.
Well, and I guess that's a good sign that you're not spending enough time at the courthouse to use it. That's good.
I guess so.
So, your initial kind of route down into the entrepreneurial world your business got acquired. Can you maybe tell us a little bit about that process and how that happened? Were you just generating enough traffic through your blog and your efforts that they noticed and reached out to you, or did you shop it out?
So I feel like with the benefit of hindsight, we did a lot of the right things without really truly understanding that we were doing the right things at the time. Like hindsight, like for example, there are certain things that like made us more attractive to be acquired. Like the first thing was like as an agency, we started out with recurring revenue only was our model. We wouldn't do any websites that didn't have some ongoing component of hosting, web hosting, or ongoing marketing packages and things like that. Plenty of people, like potential customers, would come to us and say, "Hey, can you just build me a website? I'll pay you $3,000, $5,000, or whatever, and then I want to take the site and move it to my own Bluehost or whatever account and be done with it." And we would turn them away. We would say, not interested, sorry. And they were like, "Why can't you take my money?" And it was just like not part of our business model. We wanted to be able to build this base of recurring revenue so that one, like the business would be on like an asset. And also like if I ever decided to take a vacation, we'd still have money coming in. I wouldn't have to be hunting for new sales every single day or week to keep the business running. So we built up this book of recurring revenue. We did well with our SEO to be driving inbound leads. But one thing that we did well was we built a lot of partnerships in the legal industry ecosystem. So we had a lot of like referral partnerships and co-marketing partnerships with other companies in the space. And the company that ended up acquiring us, we had like mutual customers with. They knew us, we knew them. And so they approached us about acquiring us. And at the time, they're like, "Yeah, so are you interested in being acquired?" And I said, "I don't know, probably not. Like it wasn't something I was looking for, but give me a number and tell me what you're thinking, and we'll go from there." And so I'd say like we had a lot of good things in place that made us attractive for acquisition, like the recurring revenue component, especially. We were also very serious about a like productized service model where, we wouldn't just design, like every new project wasn't so completely unique and a unique butterfly and all of that. It was like every project was part of an assembly line of process that we could do that had a specific workflow and next steps, and we could easily onboard new team members and kind of try to remove ourselves from the process. And so that if we had a new project to take on, any of our team members would know exactly what needs to be done next, and all the next steps along the way. And we would, and that we're doing only law firm sites, we have templates to rely on, so we don't need to reinvent the wheel for every single project. And because of that, also, we would turn away business, which also like scares some people in freelance. And like, what do you mean? Like people who were like restaurants or CPAs or accountants would be like, "Can you build us a site? We know you build the site for this law firm." And we'd say, "No, I'm sorry, we can't do it because we're not in this space of CPAs. Like we're trying to build a brand in legal, and doing a CPA website is completely different. There are different things that we need that we don't have assets already for. And so it wouldn't be useful for us on future projects either. It would just be a very one-off thing. And so it would take more time and more effort on our part to do that." So we were very niche down and very focused. And yeah.
I like that. I like that you realize this is what my expertise is in. This is what we have content for. And as far as SEO and that kind of world, if you already have the wheel made, there's no reason to reinvent it for another platform like an accounting firm or something like that. Like if you were going after other accountants and you had a bunch of other accountants as clients, then that would make sense. But where you were focusing on law and you're building SEO content for that, niching down makes complete sense. So I really like that.
For sure. I know that it's a tough spot for some agencies that want to take on any type of client that comes through the door, and they get their business mostly like from like referrals, let's say. But like, you can rank in your city at like for Dallas, Texas web design agency or something like that. Sure. And, it's a pretty like broad thing, but we were looking to rank for like legal specific terms, like legal marketing agency and other keywords that may be more maybe top of funnel relevant to people that would potentially want our services down the line and in the future. But if I'm a generalist, I can't create a just huge variety of content in different industries and expect to rank and outcompete other people that are very niche specific.
Yeah, no, I think that's really smart. And as an agency owner myself, I mean, we're more of a generalist firm, like what you're describing. And so, I can certainly empathize with the ideas of sort of the ebbs and the flows or the ups and downs, right? Because you're between a project and, many of our projects are not recurring revenue, like what you're describing. And so the fact that you just sort of stepped on all those things before they became landmines later, or without having to commit to a lifetime of running this agency, you actually built a system that was able to be easily acquired, I think is really smart, even if you did it by accident.
Well, so I think one of the benefits was that my co-founder was a freelancer and he kind of like was going from project to project, and he was doing it for a few years, and he was like, I don't want to be doing this constantly. I would love to be able to take a vacation sometime, and here is how I see how I could be able to take a vacation. And so from the beginning, he was trying to engineer this productized service, this assembly line of projects with recurring revenue so that he could remove himself from the process.
Yeah, it's really smart. And even just the niching down is like another one of those things that, especially for many freelancers is a super challenge, right? I mean, for creative people, they're always like, "Ooh, I want to be able to do everything," or "I want to work. I'll get bored if I just have to do that all the time." And so the fact that he was able to overcome all that or see through it, from such an early position, I think is really wise.
Oh, and I can empathize with that totally. I have my wife's cousin is a content writer, is really good at what she does, but she has like some clients that she's been with for years, and like they're very industry specific, and she like doesn't just want to be the content writer for this industry because she wants a new like a variety of projects, and I absolutely totally get that. But like I guess our plan and vision from the beginning was we want to build this thing that we could sell one day that's not dependent entirely on us, and so like that was kind of our thinking.
So you partnered with him, you got this business going, your focus was on generating SEO and traffic for your clients. Can you maybe talk about SEO best practices that you've learned along the way, how you learned them, maybe some pitfalls you went down, and how you learned from those and came back?
So I think, well, there were some things that I feel like I stumbled upon that did well, but like, I guess I would say things I'd say today to anyone starting with SEO, like the right tools absolutely make a big difference. When I was starting doing SEO, I relied on a lot of hunches and like conversations that I was having. So like some of it served us well, but some of it was a waste of time ultimately. Like I wanted to create content that I was thinking my target audience would be interested in. And this was like before I was using keyword research tools like Ahrefs or SEMrush or Ubersuggest or any of those. And in hindsight, I absolutely wished I would have used those, because it would have told me like, here's the actual amount of people searching for these terms. Here is how difficult and competitive they are. Maybe you shouldn't be writing that or anything like that. So like, I think like one area that like served us well was like, I was thinking, I want to get customers that are lawyers. How can I reach them? I'm from what I'm experiencing, trying to rank for legal marketing firm. It was much more competitive, and like, how can I get in front of this audience? But this main keyword that I'm trying to rank for, I'm thinking is going to take a lot of time for. And I was trying to find other paths. And one thing I was thinking about is, well, what are other problems that my target audience is having that's maybe not exactly related to web design? And so I was finding that just through like customer interviews, a lot of them were at the same time they were looking for a website, they were looking to start up or grow their practice. And so they were looking for other software. So I started doing review blog articles on lawyer timekeeping or lawyer case management software. And we were and they weren't that competitive. And we were in a short amount of time, we ranked very well for those topics. And we got a lot of traffic, and we got people onto our email list by creating like case studies or like comparison charts of the different software, and we got them into our ecosystem. We would build an email automation drip sequence of emails slowly going from content geared towards case management to geared towards other things you might be needing if you're looking to expand your practice, and pitch them legal marketing over time. And that was a good source for us. But if I was starting today, there are a few things I would be thinking about. The first is you absolutely need to be doing research ahead of time to come up with content that you want to create for your site. I really like Ahrefs. The three tools I'd say that I think most people are using with keyword research, it's Ahrefs, it's SEMrush, and also Neil Patel's Ubersuggest is another one. And from these, I'll go into these tools, I'll search for different keywords and then try and find ideas. And there are like a lot of different metrics that they have, but like generally across the platforms, there are like two metrics that interest me most. One is the search volume, and the other is the keyword difficulty. So like, how difficult is it going to be to rank for that term? If it's a more competitive term, maybe to start with, I wouldn't necessarily go for it. I want to go for the low hanging fruit. But then when I'm actually time to create a piece of content, there are other tools that I like and recommend. I personally use, I like Phrase, but there are other tools like Market Muse, like Outranking.
Moz, Ryan Fishkin's version of it, I guess.
Yeah, there are plenty of tools that can help you outline and come up with things to include in your content that are helpful. And I'd recommend using those for help coming up with your outline and figuring out what to include in your content.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's really useful stuff. I mean, especially I like that you're actually recommending some tools too, because it's one thing I think for a lot of people, and, our audience is comprised of a lot of entrepreneurs and people who are, solopreneurs doing this on their own. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's really challenging, because especially every one of these platforms is, working their ass off too on SEO.
Yeah.
And so it's difficult sometimes to separate the wheat from the chaff. So I appreciate the recommendations. So as you moved forward, eventually you were acquired with JurisPage, and mm-hmm. you decided to move past that into these new ventures, into Offsprout and into Postaga. Mm-hmm. Let's focus on, I guess, I don't know if one is more important to you than the other, but if Postaga is maybe what we focus our energy on, just to talk a little bit about sort of the, I guess, business development stage and actually building this thing. And then let's talk a little bit about, staffing up and getting organized.
Yeah, so from running the agency with JurisPage, I definitely learned a lot about running a business and like building a team and everything like that. But in terms of like the product, so Postaga is a cold email outreach platform. It's used by people who want to do link building to be able to find other sites that link to their content, or let them write guest posts on those websites. It's used by people to get press coverage, to get their products or their apps featured on other blogs. And it's also popular with people looking for affiliate marketers to be affiliates for their products as well. And then the last aspect of it that's popular with is for sales lead generation. And so the idea of it came about because in running JurisPage, one aspect that's kind of important to SEO and more competitive SEO is the quantity and quality of links that are pointing to your website. And the more, generally speaking, the more links you get from other real relevant websites, the better your website and your web pages will rank in search. And the process for getting other sites to link to yours is, either one, you just hope people find your article and link to it, or two, you go out there and you reach out to people that are relevant to your content to pitch them to either link to your content or let you write a guest blog article on their site, which can then link back to your site. But the process that we were seeing was very time and labor intensive. There were a lot of disjointed tools, like tools for prospecting and research, tools for finding people's email addresses, tools for sending emails, and it was just very frustrating for us. And so we wanted to build a streamlined all-in-one way to do that. And so that was Postaga. We started working on it, I want to say this spring or summer of 2019. We were getting ready for a product launch in early 2020. And then kind of COVID happened. And we also realized Product Hunt was our gonna be our big splash. We had gotten some beta testers that were people that I just cold reached out to. I reached out to marketers to test out the product, and they were giving us great feedback. And we wanted to make sure that when we were doing our product launch, it would it would be easy for new people to sign up and see the value they could get out of it. But then a few weeks before we were going to launch, I guess COVID happened, and also we realized if we had too many concurrent users, it would be a problem for us. So we had to make some fixes to the platform to be able to handle that traffic. And so then we ended up launching in May of 2020. And we very much with Product Hunt had a real strategy behind it. We wanted to make sure that we would rank number one. And so I tried to reverse engineer other successful Product Hunt launches to see what they were doing right, what they had in common, and then also just reached out to them to ask them for advice. There are plenty of articles out there on how to rank number one in Product Hunt for the day, but I figured, well, a lot of people are reading these articles who are probably not ranking number one for the day. So what is it that the people who found success know that maybe they could share? And just reaching out to some people, cold asking for their advice, I got a lot of really nice people who thankfully gave some tips, and that really helped us with the launch. It helped us do it right. And without that, I don't think we would have been nearly as successful.
Nice.
Yeah. So given the timing of the launch and with COVID and everything, can we talk a little bit about how the company itself is structured? So, and I guess what I'm trying to lean into is are you guys all sitting in a warehouse somewhere that was then shut down by COVID or something, or are you a remote team? How does Postaga work?
Yeah, so we're remote first. I'm in New York. My co-founder is in the Boston area. We have other team members around the world. And that was how we kind of started from the beginning. When in the beginning, it was just me and my co-founder, but we were very intentional that we don't need office space. We're self-motivated. We want to find the right people who would also be self-motivated, and with the right systems and procedures and everything like that and culture in place. Importantly, we want to find the right team members that can help contribute to us being able to work well remote, and not having where it's not necessary that we all be in person at an office or a WeWorker or something like that.
Yeah. No, I think that's really interesting. And I think if there's anything positive that came out of COVID, at least as it pertains to business building, this is maybe one of those things. This, I guess, ability for people, and I guess the normalization of working remotely for people, right? I mean, sure. I've been running my business as a remote company since 2005. I've always been remote. Yeah. It's just been the way the way I built it. And, but it's certainly become more commonplace. And then we almost fast forwarded into full on acceptance during COVID. And so it's been a really interesting time, but it's also created a lot of challenges. And I'm not sure how your prior business, Juris Page, was set up, if you guys had, outsourced resources or whatever. So maybe you were already experienced with this, but do you mind talking a little bit about just sort of scaling a team and hiring and firing and doing all that good stuff over the internet? Yeah.
So, I mean, it can feel a little awkward of the whole process, but I'm very comfortable with where we're at now and like what we've built. So I will say that it was an iterative process. Where we are today is not where we were a year ago, but we kind of learned from some mistakes, and I'm happy with what we've built. But basically, when I'm looking to hire people, I'll throw up a job listing on a board, whichever is pertinent to the role that we're looking to hire for. Then I will, to make my life easy, I have Zapier integrations. Basically, you fill out a form, and then when the form gets filled out, it adds a line in the Google Sheet, and I can easily review all the applications just from this Google Sheet, qualify people, and then also if I set certain parameters, they can automatically get a follow-up email or possibly a rejection email. If it's like, do you have any experience with this? And it's a key critical thing, and they say no, I can automatically send them a rejection email, which I also think is very important. I know that people are spending time to apply to your job, and I think it's important to be able to just tell them, sorry, you didn't get the position, just to let them know.
Yeah, no, that's a great point.
I appreciate that a lot, because I'm in the job hunt myself, and I'm applying to 3 or 4 jobs a day. And out of the 3 or 4, I maybe get 1 or 2 rejection letters. And then the ghosting is what is super frustrating, because I don't know what I did wrong, or if I did, like this or that. And so the fact that you actually acknowledge that and send the rejection letter and say, hey, thanks for applying, but it's not a good fit for us.
Well, and
that means a lot.
Yeah, it's a trend that I've noticed in the remote work world specifically. I mean, these remote positions, some of them anyway, with the bigger companies or the more well-known companies, might get tens of thousands of applicants, right? So they're using a lot of software to cull, and they're, trimming people off by all kinds of different criteria and stuff. So, a lot of people just never hear, you put your resume into a vacuum and you never hear about it again. And, but one of the things that I found, because in the past I had looked at a couple different remote positions, and they, a lot of these businesses, I think, are a little too clever for their own good. So they put together these really cutesy application processes where it's like, oh, well, if you were a pirate and you were on a boat, how would you handle this scenario? And it's like, yeah, well, okay, so now you're asking me to write you an essay, right? So now I'm burning an hour applying for your company or more. And you're not even going to trouble me with an email or say, hey, sorry, we didn't like the pirate story or whatever.
Oh my God.
And so, and I saw a lot of them that were doing that, and I think they're doing it as part of culture, right? So this is something we can talk about too, is remote culture. But it's, I think they were trying to be fun, but what it ended up being was actually a lot of extra work for applicants.
Right. Yeah. It ends up being extra work. And then to not give someone, to let them know they didn't get the job is frustrating, because then you were in this limbo of just waiting to possibly hear something, anything. And the least they could do is tell you, sorry, you didn't get it. If you didn't meet their qualifications for an interview or anything like that. And I've found a way to automate some of the process, which saves me time that I don't have to individually go into my email client, find the person's email and send them the email. But I've got a form email that I'm able to customize for the individual and let them know, I appreciate you applying, thank you, but unfortunately I can't offer you a position. And it's much better than nothing from them. Yeah. But yeah, so yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about Postaga.
Yeah.
And the feature set that it offers. I've noticed, I'm actually looking at the website right now, and I'm looking at a kind of like a GIF that talks about the campaign type, and then a scraper and a few other things that it does. And then also I want to discuss backlinks and how important they are and what they are. I don't think a lot of our listeners may know why the significance of a backlink matters.
Sure. So basically, yeah, Postaga is an all-in-one tool that helps with cold email outreach. Basically, the workflow is pretty simple. No matter what type of outreach what you're doing outreach for, whether you're doing it to get links or get press coverage or find sales leads, the workflow is basically step 1 is prospecting to find the right websites or blogs or podcasters or affiliates to connect with, then finding their contact details, then building and sending an email sequence with follow-up emails that are tailored to these people. And then like when you get replies, we have a built-in CRM, so you can manage those conversations and yeah, like move these leads and opportunities further. When it comes to like backlinks or like link outreach, backlinks are important, as I was kind of like talking about before. Backlinks are important because we've seen that there is a very high correlation with the quantity and quality of links that you have from other websites pointing to your site from other sites, with your site ranking better in search. And so one facet of Postaga is Postaga can like take a look at your content and then give you ideas for what some other good relevant websites might be for you to pitch, whether it's for writing a guest post for, or for asking for them to link to your content, and then reach out to those sites.
So will the website, like for our podcast, for example, we have a ton of good SEO content on our website that would Postaga go through and look at all the content on there, look at keywords, and try and link us up with other companies, podcasts, whatever, to try and create those connections and create those backlinks? Is that what it would do?
So one feature that we have is called this content hub, where basically you throw in your site URL and then Postaga will break your site down basically and see like, here's what you're ranking for. Here are some sites that are similar or relevant to yours. Here's a list of all your content, and here's what we think is like the best performing content that you might want to run outreach campaigns for, and then give you a list of suggested outreach campaign types to run with suggested keywords so that you can find other sites to connect with.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, no, it's super cool. And in fact, I will say, I set up a free trial just before we got on here. Unfortunately, I didn't have a lot of time to really dig into it, but it seems like the suite of tools is, massive, but also really powerful stuff. So, but I do think that some of it is just going to, be a matter of taking time to actually learn how to do that stuff. Cause like Mike was saying, I think sometimes we don't know what we need until we need it. Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Yeah. Well, so one of the other things I wanted to talk about, since, we talked a little bit about, hiring remotely and how to find work that way. But one thing that I sort of touched on was this idea of company culture. And one of the things that is really challenging for remote companies is distributing their culture across, Slack or whatever tool you're using.
Yeah.
And so I wonder if you wouldn't take a minute and just sort of talk about what you guys are doing. I'm not entirely sure how big your organization is. So you may not have all the problems of like a giant enterprise type company yet, but nonetheless, you're building the infrastructure that will probably become that. So I wonder if you would talk a little bit about just sort of company culture on a remote team.
Yeah, so we're a pretty small team. There are 9 of us. And I have one thing I just remembered I wanted to mention about earlier, when talking about onboarding. One thing that we found very helpful to onboard new people, especially if you're in like very different time zones, like if someone on your team is in Asia while you're in North America, like you can have potentially a 12-hour time difference, and to train people can be difficult. So if you're going to be hiring multiple people potentially for the same role, what I did was I would create a curriculum basically with like video content and guides and things like that to onboard team members. And like when I would train one person, like capture our Zoom conversation and use that as training materials for future people. And I have all new hires for that position go through like that content basically, and they're going through like an internal online training academy at their own pace, which saves me time from having to train them. It lets them work do it on their own time and their own schedule, and I don't have to do it all over again.
I actually really like that, because if you think about it, that person that's coming into that position or that role is going to have a lot of the same or similar questions as the people who will be coming in the future. So by capturing that actual initial training call and then using that as your training material, it not only saves you time, but it also answers a lot of the same questions that the people coming in will have. So that's really smart.
Yeah, I like the first iteration was I made like a Google Doc and here's our training materials. And then I would just share links to videos that I created. And then I came across like an AppSumo deal for like a create your own course sort of thing. And I just took our content and threw it into a training course. And now I have an internal course for that. In terms of like creating company culture, this is always a work in progress. I want to like I've experimented with different things, but what I want to do is like I want to ensure we have good engagement, want to ensure that our team members are invested in this. And so outside of the regular like team meetings and check-in calls and things like that, like we are mostly operating on Slack, and whenever we're like meeting Zoom, and for like project management we use ClickUp. It's like those are our main tools. And so for company culture, I want to do like been trying to do more to create more engagement with Slack, and taking really trying to take inspiration from like the Slack groups that I've seen are very good at engagement. And some of them I noticed they have like a person whose role is community. And while I don't have the resources, or like I don't have like the need for like a full-time person who's focused on community or like team, like it really seems like kind of like an HR role sort of thing. I've definitely taken some inspiration from that. So things like, not just having very business oriented channels, but doing things like having channels that are celebrating our wins and things like that, having channels that are more social oriented. So some of our team members are into like gaming and things like that, and having gaming channels for pets, kids, family, and stuff like that, and really encouraging engagement on those channels. We also use some Slack bot tools that have things like a daily stand up, which shares what we're working on, but they can also have check in for socially, like the tool we use is called a Geekbot, and it has I don't even think we're paying for it. I think it's has a very nice free tier, but it can have check-ins with your individual team members, like, hey, what are you working on today? And anything that you need help with, and to flag another team member. But also it can it has options for random questions to throw at you, and so it polls people what's your favorite pizza topping or something like that, discuss. And so just having something to really try and foster more of a community, because there is an aspect that you don't get with remote that you do get with in person. You get more, you obviously get more collaboration with in person, and trying to really foster a team camaraderie and things like that. You have to really think about and put effort into with a remote team in a way that you don't have to do as much, I think, with in person.
Yeah, it's interesting. So, the phrase that you keep using, or the word that you keep using, this idea of engagement, I think is really critical, or is really important, because it is this idea of getting everybody to be a part of this community at distance, right? I mean, if you're in an office, you run into each other at the bathroom, you run into each other at the water cooler or whatever, and you stop and you visit, and you have opportunities to sort of just, I guess, get the vibe of other people, right? But in a remote situation, you don't have that. And so getting people to actually engage with, and not just sort of do the bare minimum on Slack, but be able to, be a part of different things, or talk with one another, or share parts of their lives and things like that, will add just color to the whole team, which is really good. Sure. The other thing I like about the way you talked about it was that so much, especially during COVID and everything, so much about company culture for remote teams, especially in normally co-located teams that have gone remote, was around, kind of like silly stuff, right? Everybody gets a package at the same time, and we open our t-shirts online, and everybody's got their t-shirt, or you've got your virtual coffee hour, or a coffee break, or your virtual cocktail hour, those kinds of things. And I think those are cool, and they've got a place, and maybe that'll work for some people. But I think the difference is that those are sort of like gimmicks, like let me trick you into coming out to our cocktail, or let me trick you into doing this thing. Where what you're talking about is really this authentic engagement between individuals to try and build a relationship over the internet. So I think it's different and it's subtle, but I think it's better.
Well, one thing is like a lot of them can be very fleeting. Like you have a virtual cocktail hour, which I saw was like very popular early on in COVID and then disappeared. And I have some friends who are like, I got invited to this mandatory virtual happy hour with my team. Like, so I'm going to be drinking at home in front of Zoom, which is just my nightmare.
I think if you wrote that down somewhere, it would come off really sad. Sitting in front of my computer, talking to people I can't see, drinking. Like a sad tale if you really break it down.
Like if I wanted to, I could drink at home and not be on Zoom with my coworkers.
Yeah.
So like, yes, like a lot of that stuff was like very fleeting. And so like the idea is like, well, I want to create something that's more long-term and engaging, but also lets people engage as much or as little as they want to. Like I have coworkers who are more extroverted and want to chat about what's going on in their lives. And I also have coworkers who are very heads down, want to just do their work, and they have families and want to get out and be with their families. And that's fine. Not everyone has to be in the social channels and things like that, but you give options for people to be as involved as they want to, and trying to create a community that the people who want to be more involved can be more involved in. Like some other examples of things that I've seen, like Slack groups that people are doing is like I don't know if this is going to be dated in a year or however long, but Wordle, that word game that got really big in early January, and some people are still playing. I've been in Slack groups where there are channels where people just share, here's how I did on Wordle today, or things like that. And that's a purely social thing that you can share with your team members and colleagues and things like that. Others, like there are like trivia games and things like that, other kind of low stakes sort of social things that you could talk about.
So for me, if I knew that like the daily stand-up was a bot, I wouldn't be very happy about that. I would be like, the daily stand-up for me is like, I want to talk to the person who is, the person in charge of me. I want to actually have a back and forth with them versus just this is what I'm doing. Thanks, bot. That to me, I wouldn't really be down with. Have you seen any kind of like, with the bot that you use, have you seen any kind of like backlash because of that, or people not wanting to actually join in on the conversation because they know it's auto-generated?
Well, so basically, like I think the benefit of it is it can be very like department focused. So like I guess it could also be like big picture focused. And like with our team of like 8 or 9 people, like it gets visibility into what other people on your team are working on that you might otherwise not know about. And so for us as a small team, I think it's been a big positive, which is like, sure, I have this new task to do, which is list out what I'm working on, and like, but like it also I found like provides greater opportunities for collaboration within the team, so that you're like my team members can see, oh wow, I didn't know that they're working on this, or like they might have like, it's like one of the questions is like, is there any help that you need from anyone to complete any of these tasks? And you can just at someone in that, and it lets them know, okay, all right, so I'll check in with them. And so it pretty easily helps the whole team get a sense of what everyone else is working on. And I think that's been a positive. I had concerns about it at first because I was like wondering, like, is it going to seem like homework? And is anyone going to find it valuable? But overall, I think it's been just hugely beneficial for everybody to get like really more ownership of their projects and work, and also to get a better sense of what other people are working on, to see like what else is going on at this company. Because if your department is more siloed and you have more specific tasks that you're working on, you may have no idea what other people are working on or how that's relevant to the company.
Yeah. And I think that's right. And I've seen other things that are sort of like these little touch bases or pulse checkers. I've seen like a mental health version of this, right? Where you just kind of click, red, yellow, green for the day and just kind of do a quick little check-in, it's nice from an employer standpoint because you get a little bit of data collection, but I like how you're illustrating sort of the interplay between the employees using a system like this. Cause I think to Mike's point about it being a little bit of a chore or an extra task or, talking into the void instead of, working with a coworker. If it's not that big of a deal to just sort of, list out what you're doing and it ends up being useful collaboratively, I think that's a good thing. So, but I'm with Mike on the idea that, there's so many of these things that I think they need to be properly chosen so that you're actually, moving the ball forward instead of just making people jump hoops.
Mm-hmm, for sure.
So I wanted to try, I don't know if I can totally articulate this. I came across something the other day. It's more of a business philosophy question. And I don't know if you'll have a good answer. I don't know if your team's big enough or anything, but I'm just curious what other people think about this. So I was on a website yesterday or on LinkedIn, and I was reading this guy's post, and they were talking about these unlimited vacation policies, right? So many companies went to, we're not tracking vacation anymore, unlimited policy, everybody do whatever. And then 6 weeks later, they come back with the email saying, well, we've decided not to do that. We're going to go another direction. And I was reading this one about a guy who had installed a 4-hour or 4-day work week, but it was 4 10-hour shifts. So you did your 40 hours in 4 days, and then they were shut down on Fridays, every Friday. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people liked it. And then there were a handful of people that didn't. So this handful of people said, well, we'd rather work our 8-hour shifts or whatever and come in on Friday, even though the office is closed. So as a leader, instead of just saying, well, we're a 4-day-a-week company or we're a 5-day-a-week company, they sort of retracted their policy, but then gave both. And so they were like, okay, well, I guess everybody just do what they want. Right. and so I'm just curious what you think in about finding a balance and trying to be sort of all things to all people. And I'm asking specifically in the realm of remote work, because so many people do have different ways of working and things like this. And I guess you see it in offices as well, but my experience is mostly remote, but everybody has kind of their own way of doing things. But like, how much do you think they ought to conform to your process versus, just sort of, I guess, willy-nilly, everybody just do whatever makes them feel good?
Sure. So I think it's important for the organization first to recognize, well, what is most important to the organization, and then work from there. So like me personally, like you could be working like you could work, if you get all of your work for the week done on Saturday and Sunday, I don't care. Like if you like, every team member, every department has metrics, and those are like the important things. And like, those are high level, the things that are important for everyone's role. And if you're hitting your marks and reaching your goals and metrics and things like that, I personally don't care. And so like, we're very upfront that like, you could be working opposite hours, and we are all around the world. And so we knew from the beginning, we'd have people working at not necessarily on Eastern, New York time. And so for us, like having those metrics and like knowing like, all right, here's what we are expecting and like expecting of these roles. If you're hitting these numbers and things like that, work from wherever you want, whenever you want. And I know that can be hard for some managers, like especially if you like are a manager who wants to have your process of, well, we're going to have these specific meetings multiple times per week at these times that you have to be there for. But yeah, I think it's like it's important for like management to figure out, well, what is really most important for us, and then kind of work backwards from that. So like that, at least in terms of like scheduling, that's what we were thinking, and that's what how we decide on like our timing and things like that, was having these goals and making it known that these are the important things for the role. And yeah, you can work from anywhere, anytime. And if we see that you're hitting these numbers and everyone has full visibility into their numbers, that's also an important thing. But yeah, if everyone has visibility, then I'm okay. And we're okay with that.
Yeah, I think that's the right way to handle it. Just, if metrics are laid out and expectations are clear, and everything, then I guess the rest kind of doesn't matter. Right. Like, I mean, as long as you're accomplishing what you say you'll accomplish, then like, we don't have a problem. Like you're good to go. So we don't need to fix this issue as long as you're doing that.
Yeah. I'm one of those guys that, my brain turns on at 5 p.m. and I'll work from 5 p.m. to 1 a.m. And so I think it's just kind of like I've been a night owl, a DJ for a long time. So I think that's just the way my body works. But, I like the fact that you have metrics that you base off of and that it's public so other people can see that, so-and-so might not be pulling his weight, and it kind of, it makes him kind of realize, other people can see that I'm slacking here. So it's kind of like a self-motivator right there as well.
But I think that that's actually one of the issues with these guys that go and do these, Wild West, we're not tracking vacation time or whatever. I mean, most of the time they find out that people don't take even, the time they would have been allotted anyhow.
I mean, we could talk forever about like the unlimited vacation scam. But yeah. Oh my
well,
gosh.
And it's exactly that though. But what I was going to say basically, or just to tie it into this, was that there's a sort of an implied social pressure, right? I mean, yeah, you can be gone all you want, but if you're gone, what is everybody at work thinking about you? So there's sort of this social pressure that I think when there isn't structure around time off, when we're not saying, okay, you have 14 days a year or whatever, then, with no structure, it's like sort of with all the freedom, you're not free, that kind of thing.
Right.
We need some boundaries. And I think having boundaries actually gives people more latitude. So I have seen another company that just, they gave an exorbitant amount of time. Here's 36 days a year or something that you can take off paid, and versus a policy that's totally unlimited. And they're finding most people take about 20 hours or something a year. It's like not that big a deal.
Yeah.
So, Andy, we're kind of coming on that time. Do you want to tell us one more time where people can reach out, how they can get in contact with you if they feel like you could be a help to them?
Sure. I'm pretty easy to find on the internet. There are not any other Andy Cabassos or Andrew Cabassos that I know of, which is, I guess, good. Thanks for my parents for naming me that and not John Smith.
Hey, Mike Smith here. Leave me alone.
Well, on the bright side, you can go anonymous. And if you, do something incredibly embarrassing online, no one will be able to find it. So there are bonuses there. But yeah, if I do anything terribly embarrassing, it's going to follow me for the rest of my life, which is why I've been afraid to be a guest on podcasts for the longest time, because it's there forever.
Yeah, it's true. Well, and we make sure that, anybody that acts a fool on this show, we put a big red flag on it. So, the press can come see it. Makes it easy.
Absolutely. But yeah, so I'm Twitter at Andy Cabasso, LinkedIn, Andrew Cabasso, Facebook. We have a group called Grow Together SEO that is all about cold outreach and SEO. And website is postaga.com. And if you want to try it out, using the promo code FRIENDS50, that'll get you, I think that's the promo code. That'll get you 3 months at 50% off.
Nice.
Cool. That's awesome. Well, I was going to say, I signed up for the free trial, but I think I need more time to play with it. So that'll be a good way to experiment. So cool. Well, thanks so much, Andy. We really appreciate you making the time to be here. And this is a great talk. Lots of interesting stuff.
For sure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much to everybody who tunes in this week and every week, and we'll see y'all next week.